Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome back to my channel where I review books that I have been reading. So, if you love fiction, you've come to the right place. I should have done that intro 3 vids ago, but better late than never. I'm glad you're here, and a video that's not taken me nearly a year to do. I think that's going to be a running joke on this channel. Today, I'll be talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm not the biggest horror fan, but whilst listening to one of my favourite podcasts, the Lads Anonymous podcast, which I recommend listening, especially if you love lad-based banter, but there are some serious topics also featured. They had an episode in early July about must read books before you die, and co-host Ricky, shout out to you, my friend, mentioned Dracula as one of his fave books. So I thought, why not? I'll give Dracula a go. Everyone's heard of Dracula, but this isn't just your average vampire story. It's origin of the vampire myth as we know it, and it's way more disturbing, erotic, and ahead of its time than you might think. Dracula was first published in 1897. It's told through a series of journal entries, letters, newspaper articles, and even ship logs. It begins with Jonathan Harker, a solicitor, travelling to Transylvania to assist a nobleman, Count Dracula, with a property deal in England. But things get eerie fast. Dracula, of course, turns out to be a vampire. After a series of chilling events in his castle, Harker escapes. Meanwhile, back in England, Dracula begins to exert his influence over a young woman named Lucy Westenra, which sparks a chain of events involving Harker, Lucy's fiance Arthur, the brilliant Dr. Seward, and the eccentric vampire hunter Professor Abraham Van Helsing. The rest of the novel is a tense and slow-burning pursuit of Dracula across England and back to Transylvania, blending horror, adventure, and psychological terror. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Dracula wasn't just a spooky tale, it was subtly revolutionary. It tackled themes that were taboo during the Victorian era. You've got like sexuality, the fear of female autonomy, the conflict between science and superstition, and even xenophobia. So if you look at Lucy, for example, she falls under Dracula's spell. She transforms from a sweet Victorian maiden into a sexually liberated vampire temptress. The subtext is loud. Victorian society was terrified of what female sexuality might mean if it wasn't controlled. And Dracula himself, he's foreign, powerful, and mysterious. A perfect symbol of Victorian fear of the other, and coming to invade English purity. The late 1800s were a time of massive upheaval. Science was booming, the British Empire was at its peak, and morality was strictly policed. People were anxious about sex, disease, class, and the unknown, and Stoker channels all of this into his novel. Van Helsing, another vampire hunter, has represented the old guard of reason and chivalry, using both modern tools like blood transfusions and ancient ones like garlic and crucifixes. The novel is a literal and symbolic battle between world evil and new world reason. I have a few slight criticisms of the book itself. Dracula's limited presence, despite being in the title and like the main character, his relatively little screen time leads some to feel he's unused. In addition, I felt there were some pacing issues. The middle section is often considered slow and repetitive compared to the gripping and start and climax. Those parts, in my opinion, could have been cut down. However, more than 100 years later, Dracula still resonates. Not just because of the iconic vampire lore, although, let's be honest, we love a good vampire, but because it explores fears that are still relevant today. Fear of the outsider, fear of losing control, fear of death. It's been adapted into countless films, shows, comics, you name it. But no adaptation fully captures the eerie, creeping dread of the original. That's what makes reading Dracula today still such a powerful experience. It's not about jump scares, it's about something much deeper and darker. If you've never read Dracula, don't expect Twilight. This is dense psychological horror steeped in atmosphere and Victorian drama. But if you give it time, you'll discover a book that's far more than just a vampire story. It's a mirror held up to a society struggling with change, maybe even a little to our own. The Gothic setting, the characters, it's simply a classic. I can see myself revisiting this one in the future. Bram Stoker, you get a 5 out of 5 from me. So what's your favourite Gothic novel or vampire story? I'd love to hear it. Until next time, sleep with garlic under your pillow, just in case. Happy reading.